Good evening, honorable judges, my fellow colleagues. It's really a great pleasure for me to share some thoughts on how to teach this text to the students. Okay, my following speech will be divided into 4 parts. The first part is about the students. The second part is about my teaching objectives. Third part is about my teaching procedures. And next part is about the assignments. And the last part is about the evaluation. Okay, first, speaking of the targeted students, if I'm allowed to choose the group of students to be taught, I will be targeting at the students at the third year, that is the junior students of the BTI students. And for the teaching objectives, I have 4 objectives for this lesson. The first one is how to translate this passage into proper Chinese, and this is the basic teaching objective. Second one is that the students should have some basic knowledge on this famous translator, Zhu Shenghao, and also have some basic knowledge on the translation of Shakespeare's works. The third teaching game is the students will acquire some basic knowledge about the translation theories. Here, I will provide students with the theories put forward by Eugene Nida, namely functional equivalence, and the theory of interpretive theory in interpreting. And the fourth teaching objective is have a discussion on the translation process and to talk about how to be a qualified interpreter or translator. So the 4 mentioned objectives are listed here. Next, I will talk about my procedure in teaching this text. Well, actually, the procedure is divided into 2 parts. The first is pre-class activities, and the second is in-class activities. And also, it will involve a discussion part. Okay, first, let's talk about the pre-class activities. If I'm assigned this text to teach to students, first, I will ask them to do the translation before the class. And I will also ask students to have a deep reflection of the translation process from their preparation, from their information search, and to the translation process. And also, I will ask them to remember what are the difficult points when they are doing the translation of this passage. Also, the third pre-class activity is that I will ask students to do 2 presentations. First presentation is about the translator, Zhu Shenghao, and the second presentation is about the translation of the Shakespeare's works. Okay, so these are 3 pre-class activities. Speaking of the in-class activities, the first one is to deliver the 2 presentations in class by students. And the second one, I will ask students to talk about the translation process from their preparation to their final translation. And also, I will ask them to recall some difficult points in this process. And the third activity is about translation appreciation. Actually, in this part, it will involve two methods of appreciation. First is peer review. I will divide students into several groups and ask them to pick the best translation of this group to share in the class. And when they present their translation, I will ask the students from other groups to give their feedback. And also, the teacher's feedback is crucial in this part. Speaking of the anticipated problems of the student's translation, here I have 3 problems. The first one is how to chop a long sentence into smaller chunks. Take the first sentence of this passage as an example. We can see that the first sentence in the original Chinese is a really long one, but students may have problems in how to chop this very long sentence into smaller chunks. So this is an anticipated question of the students. The second anticipated question is the adjustment of the sentence order. And also in the original Chinese, we have a sentence, 而与逐字逐句对照，是指应意则未敢苟同. Actually, when you translate this sentence, it needs the adjustment of the sentence order. So sometimes my students may find it difficult on how to adjust the sentence order in translation. And the third question is that the students may pursue a word-for-word translation for some terms. For example, in the original Chinese, we have 往往再似咀嚼 Another example is that 查阅译文中有无暧昧不明之处. Actually here, 咀嚼 and 暧昧 should not be translated in a word-for-word way. So in this part, I will explain to the students that due to Chinese is actually a high context language, while English is a low context language. Therefore, in dealing with these translations, what we need to do is to convey its message very clearly. Okay, and then let's come to the discussion part. In the discussion part, I will ask students to share their opinions on this paragraph, whether they agree with the opinion of this paragraph or not. Based on their translation experiences and their reflection of the translation process, I think that this discussion must be very thought-provoking and it must be very fruitful to the students. And after the discussion, actually, I will present two translation theories to the students to compare. The first one is the functional equivalence by Eugene Ida. Actually, in this theory, Eugene Ida has put forward the equivalence in 4 parts. The first part is on the lexical level, and the second is on the sentence level, and the third one is on the discourse level, and the fourth one is on the style level. So I will put forward this theory for students to compare with the original Chinese paragraph here. And speaking of the interpreting theories, I will present the interpretive theory here because the core of interpretive theory is deverbalization. Actually, deverbalization tells us to translate or interpret the main idea of the speaker when you are doing a translation or interpreting job. So actually, I think that these two theories can be fit to be taught in this class because it coincides with the idea of Mr. Zhu's here. And also here, the idea conveyed by the two theories and Mr. Zhu's opinion that only that message counts. And we also should know that for an interpreter or translator, we should be faithful to the original works or to the speaker. Okay, next part is about the assignments part. Actually, for the assignments part, I have designed 2 parts. The first one is based on the discussions on the class. The students should revise their own translations. And the second, if students are interested in Eugene Ida's theory, please have a deep survey or deep research on Eugene Ida's theory, especially on the theory of functional equivalence. And the last part is about the evaluation of my class. Actually, in this class, I have combined the teaching of theory with the practice. And also, I think that in my class, I combined the learning of the cultural elements together with the acquisition of the translation skills. So this is my evaluation of this class. If you have any questions, your questions are warmly welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And again, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. The first question is about the translation of the text provided to you. If you please translate the last sentence but 1, starting from 有必自理你为舞台上之演员，审其语调之是否顺口，音节之是否调和。
To translate this sentence,
yes.
Right? Okay. Can I translate from the sentence before?
Okay.
Okay. So after I have translated 1 paragraph, I will act as the reader myself to find out if there are some ambiguities in my translation. I will also act as a performer in a stage and to find that if it's rhythmic to read and about the tunes of my translation.
Thank you very much. And then the second question is again about your teaching, and you again listed quite a few items under your teaching objectives, like how to translate generally, basically understand how to translate, and then basic knowledge of Zhu Shenghao and Shakespeare's work, and then also translation theory, Nidus theory, and the interpretive theory, and then you also want to tell the students how to be a qualified translator and interpreter. And you actually, I think, as you were talking about the procedures of your teaching, you actually talked. I think some of the ideas make sense, but if I say you actually really got way too much for one class, how would you respond to my comment? Basically, what I'm saying, you will not be able to cover all these in depth at all. How would you respond to my comment?
Okay, I understand your question. So if I understand this correctly, you think that I cram too much for the students in one class. Actually, if I want to solve this problem first, actually, I will adjust according to the number of lessons I will give to students. For example, if I cannot finish all these things in one class, maybe in the second class, I will continue with my teaching plan. But if in a single class, if I find that maybe sometimes I'm running out of time and I fall behind my schedule, I may cut the translation theory part and cut this part. But I think that basically I should guarantee that I teach the students basic translation skills on this class and to let them know how to properly translate this passage into Chinese. Okay.
Thank you very much.